There is a part of you that you refuse to look at, a part you've learned to hide from your friends, from your family, from your colleagues, and most of all from yourself. You've spent years silencing it, denying it, pretending it simply doesn't exist. And yet, it's there, operating in the shadows, sabotaging your relationships at the exact moment everything was going well, pushing you to say things you immediately regret, making you react in completely disproportionate ways to situations that don't deserve it. Carl Jung called this part of you the shadow. And what most people don't know, what nobody ever told you, is that this dark part of you is not your enemy. It might actually be the most valuable part of your entire personality. But before we can understand why, we need to understand how it was born. From the very beginning of your childhood, you received very clear messages from the people around you. Certain emotions were acceptable: joy, kindness, politeness, generosity. Others were not: anger, jealousy, excessive ambition, sexuality, aggression. So you did what every child naturally does. You put those forbidden emotions in a box. You buried them so deep that you eventually forgot they even existed. Jung called this process the repression of the shadow, and he dedicated a significant part of his career to understanding what happens when we repress this part of ourselves indefinitely. The answer is simple and brutal. It always comes back out. Always. Not in the form you choose, but in the form it chooses. And it's rarely at the right moment. Do you recognize yourself in the person who explodes over something seemingly insignificant? Who is overwhelmed by a jealousy they don't understand? Who sabotages a perfectly healthy relationship without knowing why? That's your shadow speaking, and it's speaking loudly because you haven't listened to it in far too long. Here's what makes this even more unsettling. The shadow doesn't just affect your personal life, it affects your work, your ambitions, your finances, your health decisions. Every area of your life where you notice a recurring pattern of self-defeat, that's where the shadow is most active. Jung observed this in thousands of patients throughout his career: intelligent, capable, well-intentioned people who kept repeating the same destructive patterns, not because they were weak, not because they were broken, but because they had never been taught to look at the part of themselves they had buried. And the longer you wait, the more powerful it becomes. Think about the last time you acted in a way that surprised even yourself, a moment where you thought, why did I just do that? Why did I say that? Where did that come from? That was your shadow, and it will keep showing up in bigger and more disruptive ways until you decide to finally turn around and face it. But here's what Jung discovered that almost nobody talks about, and this is where everything changes. The people you dislike the most, the ones who irritate you deeply, whose behavior drives you absolutely crazy, are actually your greatest mirrors. Jung called this projection. When a quality or a flaw is too painful to recognize in ourselves, we project it onto others. We see it in them with perfect clarity while remaining completely blind to it in ourselves. Think of someone who genuinely annoys you right now, someone whose behavior you often criticize. Maybe you find this person too arrogant, too selfish, too ambitious, too cold, too needy. Now ask yourself this uncomfortable question: does the quality you criticize in them also exist in you, somewhere, in a form you refuse to accept? This is not an accusation, it's a tool. Jung said that our most intense irritations are arrows pointing directly at our shadow, at those parts of ourselves that we judged unacceptable and banished from our conscious personality. The arrogance you despise in someone else, could it be an ambition you learned to repress because you were told it was wrong? The selfishness you criticize, could it be a legitimate need to put yourself first that you never allowed yourself to express? And this is where things get truly fascinating, because Jung didn't stop at the diagnosis. He asked a question that very few therapists dare to ask even today. What if your shadow contained not only your repressed flaws, but also your undeveloped strengths? The child who was told too often you're too sensitive may have repressed an extraordinary capacity for empathy. The one who was told stop dreaming may have buried a rare creative gift. The one who was told be reasonable may have set aside an instinctive courage that could have changed their entire life. Your shadow is not just a trash can of defects, it is also a vault of untapped potential. This is precisely why Jung said that confronting your shadow is one of the most courageous and most rewarding acts a human being can undertake. Most people spend their entire lives running from this part of themselves. They build elaborate personalities designed to keep the shadow hidden. They become experts at appearing calm, composed, and in control, while underneath the shadow grows heavier and more restless. And the irony is devastating. The more energy you spend hiding your shadow, the less energy you have available for actually living your life, for creating, for connecting, for becoming who you're truly capable of being. Jung witnessed this pattern repeatedly. His most exhausted patients weren't the ones facing the hardest external circumstances. They were the ones fighting the hardest internal war, constantly suppressing, constantly performing, constantly pretending. The moment they stopped fighting and started looking, everything changed, and it can change for you too, but only if you're willing to do what most people never do.
So, how do you actually integrate your shadow? Jung called this process individuation, the journey toward a more complete and more authentic version of yourself. And contrary to what you might think, this is not a process reserved for therapy patients or philosophers. It's something you can start today with 3 simple practices. The first is observation without judgment. The next time you feel an intense and uncomfortable emotion, jealousy, rage, shame, envy, don't immediately run from it. Sit with it for a few minutes. Ask yourself, where does this emotion come from? What is it trying to tell me? What does it reveal about a need I haven't expressed? This is not pleasant, but it is extraordinarily informative. When you feel a sudden surge of jealousy toward a friend who got a promotion, don't immediately shame yourself for feeling it. Instead, get curious. What does this jealousy tell you about what you actually want, but haven't admitted to yourself? What ambition have you been quietly suppressing? Your uncomfortable emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers, and they will keep knocking louder and louder until you finally open the door. The second practice is the shadow journal. Every evening, write down 3 things: an emotion you felt and suppressed during the day, a person who irritated you and why, and one quality in that person that might exist in you in a repressed form. After a few weeks, patterns will begin to emerge, recurring themes will surface, and you will start to see your shadow with a clarity you've never had before. This practice alone has been reported by many people following Jungian psychology as one of the most transformative habits they've ever developed. Not because it's complicated, but because it forces you to be honest in a way that most of us never are with ourselves. The third practice is perhaps the most powerful: active imagination. Jung himself used drawing, painting, and writing to dialogue with his unconscious. He called this active imagination. You don't need to be an artist. Take a blank page and give your shadow a form. Draw it, describe it, write it a letter. Ask it what it wants, what it's trying to bring you. This might sound strange, but Jung discovered that simply giving a conscious form to our repressed aspects is often enough to reduce their grip on our behavior. Because the shadow is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to be recognized. It is trying to be integrated. And when you give it space consciously, it stops expressing itself destructively and unconsciously. This is the fundamental paradox of Jungian psychology. The more you accept your darkness, the more luminous you become.
There is a quote from Jung that I find particularly striking. He said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Read that again. Let it sink in. Our entire culture pushes us in the exact opposite direction. We are told to think positive, to ignore the negative, to visualize success, to smile through everything, to become the best version of ourselves, as if that best version has no shadow, no anger, no fear, no contradictions. Jung would have considered this approach dangerous. Not because positivity is bad, but because ignoring the shadow doesn't make it disappear. It makes it stronger, darker, and more uncontrollable. The most grounded people you know, the ones with a calm presence, a solid confidence, an ability to handle conflict with grace, are not the ones who have no shadow. They are the ones who have learned to look at it directly. They know they are capable of jealousy, so they are not surprised when it appears. They know they carry anger within them, so they can channel it rather than be consumed by it. They know their dark zones, so they are not at the mercy of their projections. That is individuation, according to Jung. It is not about becoming perfect, it is about becoming whole. And here's the question I want to leave you with today. What is the part of yourself you have refused to look at the longest? What emotion did you learn very early to consider unacceptable? Because it is probably there, in that precise shadow zone, that a significant part of your untapped potential is waiting. Jung spent his entire life exploring these questions, and in the videos ahead, we are going to continue this journey together, exploring the concepts that can fundamentally change the way you understand yourself. The shadow is just the beginning. If something in this video resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in what we explored today, then you already know what to do. See you very soon.